Let's talk about where we are. We've seen, obviously, a huge boom in travel post-pandemic. How sustainable do you think that is?
Well, by all appearances, it looks sustainable because the increase in demand and the bookings, as articulated by pretty much every customer we have around the world, suggests that when a flight gets canceled or supply is reduced, that the bookings just move out another month.
Yep.
In other words, the demand remains, and it's really supply trying to keep up with demand.
Well, let's talk about supply. It has been a major issue, not only for your customers, but also for you. When is this supply chain shortage of labor, bits, you name it, we're short of just about everything. When do you think it's going to be fixed?
Well, it's not clear to me when it gets fixed, but the planning horizon that we have to attend to would suggest it doesn't get fixed until probably the end of next year.
Wow.
And the real issue, we have a very large, sophisticated, and somewhat fragile supply chain behind the airplane manufacturers. And just as fragile, it turns out, are the operators themselves, the airlines, and the ability to staff up with pilots, the ability to staff up the ground crews, maintenance crews, et cetera. Hardly a week goes by where you don't see some implication of them not being able to keep up with that supply side. And so I believe this is going to last for a while.
Fed Chair is going to be joining the Congress a little bit later on. He's going to be giving 2 days of testimony on Capitol Hill. The emphasis at the moment is on the Fed. The president's putting the emphasis on the Fed to deal with this inflation that we're seeing right now, this supply side problem, the bottlenecks that we're experiencing. Do you think we need a recession to fix some of this?
I won't use the word recession. I'm not sophisticated enough to do that. On the other hand, slowing things down a bit, I think will be helpful to a lot. Now, it doesn't affect every industry equally, but like in our case, where you do compete with other industries on certain disciplines, software development, data analytics, computational work, et cetera, in those instances, if we see a softening of demand, it will be helpful to us with respect to the retention of our people, as well as the recruitment of new people to deal with growth.
You've had some huge operational challenges. The MAX program obviously has been one of them. The 87 program, we still don't know where the 777X is ultimately going to go and when that's going to be certified. Dave, have you got a grip on this? Do you feel you've got a handle on what is happening and the kind of timeline you're looking at to fix some of these problems?
I absolutely feel like we have a grip on it because we've been very deliberate about the fixes and our attention to detail and documentation with the FAA, our counterparty, and we've made steady progress every step of the way. Most importantly, we've been transparent with everybody every step of the way. Our customers, the FAA, EASA, regulators around the world. And while that's uncomfortable, that was always necessary to regain the trust of the flying public. They needed to know we were that.
Do you think you have the trust of all those stakeholders? Do you think you still need to do more to rebuild it?
You always have to do more. The minute you don't think you have to, you lose grounds. On the other hand, I think we're gaining on it. And I'm confident that the processes will end well, that the MAX, which has already been brought back into service and is performing incredibly well, the 87, which when it comes back, as determined by the FAA, will be an improved version of the 787. Simple as that. Will it be any safer? Probably not. But will the quality and the attention to detail and all the things we have to do with our regulator to make certain we have trust on both sides of that will be great. And I feel good about what we gained in that process.
Let's talk about real estate. You're going to be moving the headquarters down to DC from Chicago. Does that send the right message, do you think, to those stakeholders we've just been discussing about your attention to detail, about needing to be close to the factory floor, to the lines that are making these aircraft, to have the oversight, to know what is happening, to know that you're on the right track? Does moving to DC send that message?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The irony in that is the decision with respect to our headquarters operation was made probably my second or third week on the job back in 2020, when we asked all of our operating leaders, our chief engineer, chief manufacturing, chief supply chain, to go move back to their people and as close to the work as they can possibly get. So that decision was rendered almost 2.5 years ago, and ultimately the decision we made to more or less rationalize a footprint in Chicago and move a couple of people, basically me when I'm in the headquarters office and our CFO to DC, that was pretty much the extent of it. we're very happy to be in Washington, D.C. Our biggest customer in the world is right across the road in the Pentagon. We have regulators we do have to attend to. We have legislative voices that we have to attend to. And yes, we still spend most of our time on the road, in our factories, and with our engineers.
The criticism is, though, coming from CEOs of some of your biggest customers, MOL, Michael O'Leary, Ryanair. There are plenty of others that are saying that the company still does not have the trust of its customers at this point, that we need changes, that the company needs to get a better grip, a better handle on what is happening. There are still frustrated CEOs out there that are trying to buy your airplanes, trying to get them in the configuration that they want, and they're not getting them. Does that give you pause? Normally that doesn't happen. Normally CEOs don't talk to other CEOs in this way.
Well, in our industry, in my experiences, they actually do.
Okay.
Because they're very attentive to detail, as they should be. And when they're disappointed, and they voice their concerns. And the people and the voices who express those concerns, I take very seriously. It'll always give me pause. We have serious discussions inside our company. On the other hand, at exactly those very same moments, we had other customers who were expressing extreme faith in our company, extreme faith, placing real orders for real airplanes to be delivered here in the future, placing orders for new technologies that we will deliver in the future. So we get it from both sides. I take all of the complaints very seriously. They're made by great operators. And in a supply-constrained world, we're going to have to face into that music, because that is what ultimately disappoints us when we can't fulfill an order at exactly the moment they want it fulfilled, and it kills them because they can't put that airplane into service when they need it. So that's a real story, and we try to pay attention to it each and every day. And for the next year, as we face into supply constraints, our industry is going to have a few more of these stories.
Is the drip, drip, drip of tough news that has come out of Boeing, are we done with that?
You're never done, but yeah, I think the drip, 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 and most importantly, the most important issues we had to contend with respect to the faith of the flying public, specifically related to the MAX. Yeah, I think we're pretty well through that. I think the flying public has been with us now for quite some time. Our customers have faith in the airplanes. And yes, we have to deliver 787s. Yes, we have to certify the 777X, and I believe we will.
Final question, you mentioned new technologies. Looking ahead, when you talk to your engineers, what do they see? We discussed this just on stage just a moment ago. Are we gonna be sticking with the tube and the wing? Is that what the model looks like going forward? How broad is your thinking in terms of what the technology needs to look like to get us to the kind of sustainability targets that airlines are setting right now?
Yeah, so I'll differentiate the airplanes that are now completing the certification process, which were largely derivatives of prior models, from what's the big next one. And our team is focused on, one, the tools required to develop an airplane in this day and age, largely digital modeling, modeling the factory floor, modeling the service orientation, et cetera. But maybe more importantly, it has to have a sustainability wrapper all around it. It just does. A lot of technologies we can bring to bear. Sustainable aviation fuel is already a big one. As we've said, in 2030, every airplane we deliver will be capable of flying on 100% sustainable aviation fuel, but there's more to do going forward. So I would look for a sustainability wrapper as the differentiator relative to our history in differentiating airplanes.